Hey friends, so this is my second video with this setup, and I'm still moving the camera around, practicing with experimenting with the lighting, the yellow balance. I haven't bothered trying to figure out yet. I guess the angle of this light is not gonna stay here. I'm gonna move it at some point. It's from IKEA, and I just set it up. And there's the old one, the new one. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I am in the middle of working on the Substack post that I mentioned. I'm not sure. Did I mention it in the previous video? I talked about struggling with coming up with a second Substack post, right? I have the first Substack post out, and I'm sure there must be a lot of people out there like myself who published one Substack post that they're very proud of, and then how do you follow up with that? And then you spiral into not knowing what you're going to do next, and then gone. It just doesn't happen. And I'm about halfway done, maybe 3/4 done, although I'm reminded of a quote from, I'm not sure if it was Car Masters, I think, yeah, which is a Netflix show about cars, a car workshop, where they said it's always 80% done. At whatever stage you're in, it feels like you're always 80% done. And yeah, I feel like my post is 80% done. I would like to ship it tonight before I go to bed. It's just about midnight. I sometimes sleep at like 4 a.m., so however long it takes, but I want to ship before I go to bed. And I just want to talk a little bit about information architecture. And it's a phrase. It's a phrase that has some meaning to some people that I'm not familiar with, but I like the phrase when it came to me. I have a tweet that says, "Thinking is easy, information architecture is hard." And what I mean by that is, well, thinking isn't necessarily easy, but you can practice and get good at it. And I got pretty good at it from doing lots and lots of blogging, lots and lots of writing, thinking, talking with friends, making YouTube videos, right? And I have over 100 videos at this point, maybe 200 videos, 300, 250-ish, something like that. And the challenge is, again, I can make a new video at any time. I can just press this button now and start recording and start talking. And the words that are coming out of my mouth, I'm not even thinking about what's coming out. I'm not planning what the next phrase is going to be. I just start talking and it just happens by itself. And my job is to feel the vibe, to feel what kind of sensations, I'm screwing myself now by thinking about it and talking about it. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say. There's some thinking going on, but I'm not consciously, actively, carefully thinking about it. That happens, before and after. It happens before showtime. It happens afterwards when I review and reflect and think, what was I trying to do there? What was I gesturing at? What was I grasping at? And so I have hundreds of videos, but then the question becomes, how do I organize them? How do I name them? Am I going to make playlists of these videos? How do I choose the playlists? How do I sort them? How do I, kind of connect the dots and draw the lines? And that's what I call information architecture. Another way of thinking about it is, it's like just assembling all the building blocks that you have, right? And they can be very arbitrary. They can be random almost, although hardly anything's ever really random, right? If you pick something, it came out of your mind, it's connected in some way, and the task is to figure out which connections are useful, interesting, valuable. And even the word decide, it means to cut, right? Like homicide and patricide and genocide, suicide. Like the word decide means to cut. You cut off some options, and we're always swimming in infinite possibility, which is exciting in some ways, exhilarating and terrifying in other ways, because what are you gonna do? You have infinite options, and when you make a choice, that eliminates the other choices that you could theoretically have made. And Sylvia Plath has a very sad poem about this, where she talks about sitting underneath a fig tree, and every fig on the tree represents the possibility of a different life. There's one where she's like traveling around the world and having this jet set adventure life, one where she's a wonderful parent with a beautiful family, one where she is like an athlete, like an Olympic athlete, who really devotes herself to that. And while she is dreaming about all the possibilities, she doesn't know what to choose, and all the figs start to blacken and fall to her feet, and she's like, I'm thinking of the Zen Pencils comic, where it depicts her kind of being depressed, and we know how that story ends. It's very, very sad that she ultimately kills herself, which is, I mean, she might have been depressed for other reasons, or it's just a mess. But the point being that you have to make decisions sooner or later, and if you don't make decisions, decisions will be made for you by the reality around you that does not necessarily have your best interest at heart. And I struggled with that a lot as a teenager and in my early 20s. And I would say my late 20s has been about learning to trust myself and learning to get better at making decisions. And even making bad and wrong decisions is part of the process of learning to make better decisions. And there's some we never have perfect information, we never know everything, and we're not omniscient, and so we will make mistakes, and that's part of the process. And sometimes those mistakes can be irreversible, and they can be costly and damaging. And the best you can do is the best you can do, and that you can't do better than that. And that itself can be something that, when you come to terms with it, you may have to grieve, just realizing the inescapability of pain and suffering and disappointment. And a bunch of that has to do with your expectations, and so you got to manage your expectations and not expect too much. But then you want to not have expectations. You want to be careful not to kill your soul entirely and not have any desire and not have any. Well, there's some schools of thought where they're like, oh, you should live without desire, and I'm not that about that life. I think that's slightly overkill. I think that is that class of stoicism. I think it might be, and maybe it was a response to a particularly bleak time, right? Maybe they were living through eras of war and terror and illness, and there's no medicine, and just children would die in birth, mothers would die in birth, so that kind of bleak time almost necessitates a bleak outlook in order to cope with that, to manage that. And I don't think that's necessary. I think some desire makes life interesting. And if you've seen my lmao meme, where I have a picture, in fact the painting over there is a paint. You can't really see it. I don't know if I press the. Can you see it if I press that? It is a painting of Odysseus in between Scylla and Shabadis. I don't know if I got those words right, but it is it's between the Hydra and the whirlpool, right? And my meme is that the Hydra is life is excruciatingly meaningful. That everything you do could be of consequence. Everything you do is matters tremendously, and so you get paralyzed with the sense of, oh god, I have to make things work, make things count, not screw things up. And then on the other side you have the whirlpool, which is life is devastatingly meaningless, nothing matters, so fuck it, just lie down and die or lie down and be miserable, just be, what's the point, just be depressed, be disengaged from reality itself, which is a kind of listless emptiness, right? And the ship in the middle has to go in between those two extremes, and I put a lmao on it because you gotta laugh, I have this whole separate blog post about one must imagine Sisyphus lolling, laughing out loud. And humor, I think, is the response. This was supposed to be a video about information architecture, but I believe it's related. So I was just talking about decisions and the great philosophical problem of life, which is how do you live your life when you are immortal, and how do you deal with death, right? Those seemingly extreme things. That's the container of our life, right? We live our lives within a lifespan, within our mortal range. I mean, well, I guess if you believe in an afterlife, or if you believe in whatnot, and I do think that part of what makes life meaningful is to be able to have faith and hope about things beyond it. So even though I'm not I wouldn't say I'm particularly a devout follower of any particular religion with a specific belief in a material afterlife, your body and your soul endures in a very material sense, I will, me, right? It's very egoistic, right? Me, I will persist after my death, and I will go to heaven and hang out with my friends. I don't think that's quite how it is. I think that's a metaphor, sort of. I think it's more about humanity has existed in the form that we know, maybe 100,000 years, maybe 300,000-400,000 years. I don't know how long, but just our we are the dreams of our ancestors made flesh, is how I like to think about it. We are part of a continuing chain, and we can dream of our descendants, and maybe not necessarily your genetic descendants, right? It could be just future humans that we are the ancestors of collectively. And I think that you can have a meaningful life by thinking about how you want to, be an example for them and put things into motion that's helpful to them, but not necessarily be so burdened with a sense of obligation that you abdicate your own life. I've seen some people do this where they are so burdened with the idea of being a good ancestor that they are not present in their lives. And what kind of message does that send to your descendants? It tells your descendants that, oh, you should live your life in this kind of browbeating service to the future. And then what? Then wouldn't they feel obliged to do the same thing for their descendants? And if everyone is devoting all their waking hours to, Ellen Watts says it's all retch and no vomit. It never gets there. Each parent raises their child to stress out their child. You gotta enjoy your life to some degree while you're here, while you can. And it's almost, I feel that it's almost an obligation, but not a like a grotesque crushed up obligation. No, it's you gotta relax. You gotta open up. You gotta be loose and limber and be, just enjoy your life and try and help someone along the way and enjoy the ride. Information architecture. Am I still gonna title this video about that? Maybe I'll make that a separate video since this has been so much about lmao. And yeah, how long has this been going? 11 minutes. Wrap it up, bro. Yeah, I described the lmao meme as the hard philosophical problem in life, which is how to live your life. And so the biggest problems are like, is life, I think Albert Camus, is that how you pronounce it? He said the questions in life are like, should I kill myself or should I get a cup of coffee? It's really that sense of, is life worth living, and what should I do about that? All right. And things like the death penalty and abortion and it's all difficult. It's very, very difficult stuff. And I won't claim to have answers, and I don't know if we should be certain about any of these things. It's life is complex, it's chaotic, it's overwhelming, and we have to, we don't have to do anything. You don't have to, you could just opt out if you want. That's your choice. I don't recommend it. I don't find myself grasping for a feel good solution. I'm just I've worked through this stuff for myself. I remember despairing. I remember being euphoric from time to time. And with enough time and experience, you see that it's all a part of life. It's like weather. It's like sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hazy, and I have no rallying cry, or your life is your life. It's really it's cheesy and cliche, and I guess I would say feel for the tension in your face, in your body. I have this video that's like a recap of me from 2017 until now, and you can see that in my old videos I was so stressed and like my face was all scrunched up, and now I'm not so much, and I'm not at my most relaxed right now, in part because I'm stressed about the thing that I'm working on. But the meta container, the meta frame around that is, I'm alright. It's about as good. You just, are you alright? I don't know. This is a bit of a sketch of a video, but that's how it goes. You can't always do. You're not gonna hit home runs on every hit, but you keep playing. You keep having fun if you can. Talk to your friends. Take care of each other. Try to be nice to yourself. Try to enjoy some stuff. Try to do better each time you do stuff. And I hope you guys are well. I hope something in that was useful. If not, just thanks for hanging out. Done.